No place for losers. No place for losers. Those were my brother's exact words as he blocked the doorway on Christmas Eve. Behind him, the tree glowed soft and golden, the same one we decorated as kids. My mother sat on the couch clutching her wine glass, pretending to be lost in the flicker of lights. My father didn't even look up. I stood there, holding a bag of gifts for their kids, gifts I'd spent weeks choosing, and for a moment, nobody said a word. Jacob's smirk was the only thing moving in that silent room. I didn't yell, I didn't beg, I just said, "You're right," and walked away. That night, I made one quiet move that froze every payment keeping his family afloat. By New Year's, he was the one knocking on my door. I used to love Christmas. The lights, the cinnamon candles, the snow softening every edge of our old street. It was the only time I could pretend our family was normal. But that illusion cracked years ago, slowly and silently, like ice under your feet before it breaks. Growing up, I was the fixer. If a bill was late, I paid it. If someone needed a ride, I dropped everything. When Jacob and his wife Kelly fell behind on their mortgage, I sent money before they asked. Back then, I told myself it was kindness. Maybe it was guilt. Or maybe I just wanted to be the daughter who kept everything from falling apart. My parents encouraged it. "You've always been the responsible one," my mother would say, smiling with relief disguised as pride. My father stayed silent, always letting Jacob take and me clean up. Over time, I stopped keeping track. School fees, groceries, rent top-ups, everything. The funny part? They called it help, but it was really control, just not mine. Every time I laid them out, I chained myself tighter to their approval. That's how it worked in my family. Generosity was the leash, love was the treat. This year, I told myself things would change. I bought thoughtful gifts, baked my grandmother's cookies, took time off work. I even imagined laughter. But when Jacob called me a loser, that illusion ended. His words didn't just sting, they rearranged something inside me. On the drive home, the car felt heavier. The wrapped presents on the seat beside me glowed faintly under the streetlights, like reminders of how naive I'd been. By the time I reached my apartment, I wasn't angry. I was calm. Too calm. Because for the first time, I saw it clearly. I wasn't part of a family. I was part of a system that only worked when I stayed quiet. That night, I didn't sleep. His words replayed again and again. The part that hurt wasn't his voice. It was my mother's silence. My father's eyes fixed on the floor. That silence said everything. We agree with him. The next morning, I made coffee and stared at my notebook. Christmas budget, receipts, school fees. My handwriting looked like a stranger's desperate attempt to buy affection. Each line I traced felt like proof of how much of my life I'd spent trying to be enough. Then something inside me shifted. It wasn't anger, it was exhaustion. The kind that comes when you finally understand the rules of a game you never agreed to play. I opened my laptop, pulled up my accounts, and there they were. Every transfer labeled kids' tuition, daycare, groceries, utilities. I clicked through each one, my breath steady. Cancel, cancel, cancel. One by one, I erased every automatic payment. 5 minutes to undo 5 years. I expected guilt, but I felt light. The apartment seemed quieter, warmer. I poured another coffee, stood by the window, and watched snow drift under the streetlights. For once, I wasn't thinking about who needed what. I was thinking about boundaries, and how peaceful they sound when you finally draw one. By noon, I packed all the gifts into storage boxes and taped them shut. Not to throw away, but to stop looking at them. Every ribbon felt like evidence of a crime I'd committed against myself. That afternoon, Jacob texted, "You could have at least dropped off the presents. Kids are waiting." I typed one word, "No." His reply came quick, "What's your problem?" I didn't answer. Let him wonder. Let him feel what it's like to be met with silence. His silence lasted 2 days. Then the calls started. First polite, then desperate, then angry. "You've changed. You're selfish. The kids will suffer because of you." I didn't reply. I just watched the messages stack up, proof that my worth had always been measured in money. By Friday, he showed up at my office unannounced, red-faced and sweating under his coat. "We need to talk," he hissed. My coworkers froze, eyes flicking between us. "Not here," I said, walking him outside. The second we stepped into the parking lot, he spun on me. "You think you can cut us off like that? The kids." "They're your kids," I said evenly. He laughed harsh. "Oh, so now you care about responsibility." "I do," I said quietly. "That's why I'm finally taking mine back." His face twisted, but I didn't flinch. "You can't do this." "I already did." I turned and walked away, my boots crunching on snow louder than his fury. For the first time, I wasn't scared of his anger. I'd lived under it for years, his and my parents, both fed by my guilt. That guilt was gone. 3 days later, he called again. His tone was cold, forced calm. "We need to talk," he said. "Kelly's falling apart. The kids are confused. You used to care." "I still do," I said. "That's why I stopped." "You're not the person I thought you were." "No," I said. "I'm not your wallet anymore." 2 nights later, he showed up at my door. The pounding was hard enough to shake the frame. I opened it just enough to block the entrance. "What are you doing here?" "You need to stop this," he snapped. "You think you're better than me? You're ruining my life." I folded my arms. "You did that yourself." "You have no idea what's happening," he said, stepping closer. "You can't just walk away from family." I almost laughed. "Family? You called me a loser a week ago, now I'm family." Before he could answer, a voice came from behind him. "Jacob, stop!" Kelly stood near the car, coat half-zipped, eyes red. He spun, startled. "Go home," he barked. She didn't move. "No, we're done." He froze. "What are you talking about?" "I met with a lawyer today," she said quietly. "I know about the gambling, the lies, the hidden account." His face drained of color. "You what?" "All those payments Jolie sent, the ones you said went to the kids, I saw the bank statements. You spent them at casinos." He turned toward me, desperate. "You told her." I shook my head. "Didn't have to." Kelly pulled a folder from her bag. "I did, and I gave copies to the lawyer. You can't hide it anymore." He lunged forward, but I stepped between them. "Don't," I said. My voice didn't rise, but it stopped him cold. He stared at me, his breath ragged. "You think this makes you righteous?" I looked him in the eye. "No, it makes me free." He laughed, cracked and bitter. "You'll regret this." He said. Kelly's voice came soft but firm. "We already have." He looked between us, realizing finally that neither of us feared him anymore. Then he turned, shoved his hands into his pockets, and walked into the dark. Kelly trembled. I motioned her inside. "You don't have to explain," I said. Inside, the air was warm and still. I poured her tea. She stared at it for a long time. "I should have said something that night," she whispered. "You were surviving," I said softly. "I get it." Tears filled her eyes. "He said you owed us, that you were lucky to have a family who needed you." "That's the thing about people like Jacob," I said. "They call it family when they're taking and betrayal when you stop giving." She nodded. "He's gone. I told him not to come home." "Do you have somewhere to go?" "I'll figure it out." "You can stay here for now," I said. She looked shocked. "You do that." "I'm not helping him," I said, "but I'll help you." That night, Kelly slept on my couch while I watched snow fall outside. For the first time in years, my apartment didn't feel empty. It felt earned. The next morning, Kelly's lawyer called. "We have proof of your brother's misuse of funds," he said. "Kelly's moving forward with separation." I thanked him and hung up. Later that evening, my phone lit up again, Jacob. I ignored it, but he called again and again until I finally picked up. "You ruined my family," he shouted. "No," I said calmly. "You ruined it yourself." He started to speak, but I cut in. "You used me. You lied. You called me a loser. You've lost everything because you couldn't stop taking. So here's your last choice, stop or sink." Silence, then a click. The world outside my window was still. Clean. Like it had been waiting for this moment. By February, Kelly and the kids had moved to a new state. She sent pictures, snowmen, messy pancakes, drawings on new walls. Each one looked like freedom. My mother called once, her tone sharp. "You've made things difficult for your brother." "Maybe now he finally knows what that feels like," I said. She sighed and hung up. For the first time in my life, the guilt didn't stick. I had spent years mistaking sacrifice for love. But love isn't measured in money, and family isn't defined by who you keep rescuing. Slowly, I began to breathe again. The silence in my apartment was no longer heavy. It was peace. One morning, I walked past the old bakery my mother used to take us to as kids. The smell of cinnamon no longer hurt. It reminded me that sweetness can exist without obligation. Weeks later, I got a letter from Kelly, handwritten warm. "We're safe now. You gave us that." I folded it and kept it beside the last photo of our family together. Not for nostalgia, for proof. Proof of what survival looks like. That night, I stood by the window watching snow fall again. The reflection staring back at me was steady, calm, unrecognizable from the woman who once begged to belong. I realized then, the family I needed wasn't the one I lost. It was the one I built inside myself. A week later, I dropped the last box of Christmas decorations at the donation center. The clerk smiled. "Do you want a receipt?" I shook my head. "No," I said. "I already kept what mattered, the lesson." Driving home, I passed my parents' street. Their house looked smaller now, like a stage after the play was over. I didn't stop. I just slowed long enough to see the same porch light that once glared in my face. Maybe they still talked about me. Maybe they still called me selfish. Maybe they always would, but I wasn't a loser anymore. I was free. Outside, snow kept falling soft, steady, clean. And for the